Let's science the shit out of this. Alright, so the first ethical dilemma that we're going to be looking at that was inspired by this film, I, Robot, is job automation. That will lead us then into the second ethical dilemma. There was another segment of jobs that was being taken over by robots. And you can probably guess what it is. Go ahead and guess. No, that's not it. But it actually is self-driving cars.
That brings us to our third ethical dilemma from this movie. This ethical dilemma is about robot autonomy and free will. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be conscious? And what does it mean for a robot to be either of those things? Rather, we should fear robots for doing exactly what we ask them to do. And this is kind of a partial quote from one of my favorite TED Talks. We will put the link in the description below. But it's this idea that robots actually will not try to harm society and become their own being and harm society in that way, but rather it will be through loopholes and vagueness in the goals that we provide for these robots that will cause them to basically misinterpret the rules and laws that we gave them so that eventually they do harm society.
Oh gosh. Let's dive into our ethical dilemmas. The first one I've already alluded to, Black people and the medical experimentation within the medical community. So this issue goes back further than what you're probably thinking of. The other one is just also briefly mentioned is celebrity consciousness. So one of the things that happened when Rollo Haynes lost his job in the research and development, he was going to go into celebrity consciousness, but he found that the regulation was too strict, and that's when he went into the direction he did with Clayton and making his consciousness and the attraction that he made at Black Museum. All right, so actually let's go ahead and start off with our first ethical dilemma I just mentioned, making human like AI. So talking about digital assistants, talking about any sort of embodiment of a system that conveys itself through audio or visual components that make it more human-like. Okay, so we've already talked about how AI and digital assistants are trying to be more human-like and the problems therein. Our second ethical dilemma is why these virtual assistants are so pervasively feminine.
Awesome. All right, let's dive right into it. Today we will be discussing two ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemma number 1 is ethics versus innovation.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
This is one of my personal favorite ethical dilemmas in the realm of technology ethics.
Okay.
For ethical dilemma number 2, we are going to be talking about public transparency in the case of science gone wrong.
And facts and the truth are what bring us to today's ethical dilemma. Mis and disinformation and their spread on the internet.
So today's ethical dilemma is digital surveillance. So what is digital surveillance? Well, in the realm that we're looking at today, at 1984 and Terminator Dark Fate, digital surveillance is something that's used to look at people's data, information, movement, and that's done through things like surveilling your camera information, that's done through your phone information, that's taking a look at any data that you're putting out there in the world and the digital footprint that you're creating.